We have an exciting and informative case study on understanding the changes to Canada's food labeling regulations, and this will be presented by Margaret Podgorski, who is a regulatory specialist of labeling compliance with Mérieux NutriSciences. So welcome, Margaret.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Goodridge. And thank you everyone for joining me this morning for my presentation titled Understanding Changes to Canada's Food Labeling Regulations. So as Dr. Goodridge mentioned, I'm with Mérieux NutriSciences as a labeling, compliance, and regulatory specialist. So just a little bit about Mérieux. So Mérieux NutriSciences has a food safety and nutrition division under the umbrella under Institute Mérieux. And there's also several other branches, including BioMérieux, which is our diagnostics branch, and Transgene, which is the immunotherapy branch. Mérieux NutriSciences' primary goal is to protect consumer health. So that stems from environmental and food safety to nutrition and health. And Silicur is an analytical services company created in 1967, and that's part of Mérieux, of Institute Mérieux since 1998. We deliver a wide range of analytical, audit, and consulting services to the food and nutrition, agrochemicals, pharmaceutical, and environmental industries. And food and nutrition actually makes up the core of our business, and that's at least 80%. So our values are accountability, integrity, initiative, and excellence. And we are a global company with a presence in 26 different countries with more than 100 accredited laboratories worldwide and more than 7,500 people. And our North American footprint can be shown on this map here. So we have various locations all across the US and Canada, with our headquarters being in Chicago, Illinois. Okay, so before I get into the food labeling regulatory changes, I just wanted to give an overview of Health Canada's healthy eating strategy. So the vision of this healthy eating strategy was to make the healthier choice the easier choice for all Canadians. There are 4 different branches of this initiative. The one I will be speaking to today is better nutrition information, in specifically improving food labels. The other pillars are improving food quality, protecting vulnerable populations, and improving food access and availability. So throughout my presentation, I'll be talking about Health Canada and CFIA quite a bit, and I just wanted to talk about what each of these parties is responsible for. So Health Canada is responsible for setting standards and providing advice on consumer health, nutrition, and safety, where CFIA is actually responsible for the enforcement of food safety, nutritional quality standards that have been established by Health Canada for all food regulations for products, packages, and facilities. So Health Canada is the overarching body that's responsible for setting these standards, and CFIA would be the ones enforcing them. Okay, so the food labeling changes were introduced on December 14th, 2016, through the amendments in the Food and Drug Regulations. Regulated parties have a 5-year transition period to meet the requirements of these regulations. And these regulations impact our labels for food in Canada. So specifically nutrition facts tables and their format and legibility requirements, as well as the % daily values in those nutrition facts tables, updating the list of nutrients, and the list of ingredients. So the list of ingredients would be impacted in terms of the format and legibility requirements as well, and the declaration of how those ingredients are displayed within our ingredient lists. Serving size is also impacted, and it's revised based on regulated reference amounts. And sugars information is updated in the nutrition facts table and within the list of ingredients as well. So I'll start with the nutrition facts table. So on the left-hand side here, we can see the original nutrition facts table, which many of you, I'm sure, if you live and consume food in Canada, are very familiar with. And on the right-hand side, we have the updated nutrition facts table. So there are many changes just looking at them side by side in terms of the formatting. For one, the serving size stands out and is more legible for the consumer. And the calories is a lot larger and it stands out with that bolded line underneath. The daily values is also updated. So on the right-hand side there, the raw value of the nutrients would be similar in the original and the new, nutrition facts table, but those daily values might change based on new science that has come out from Health Canada. They've also added a percent daily value for total sugars. So if you can see on the right-hand side, we have sugars 22 grams and 22% daily value, whereas on the left-hand side, we just have the gram value of sugars, 22 grams. They've also updated the list of minerals of public health concern. So when the original nutrition facts table came out, vitamin A and C were vitamins of concern that Canadians were deficient in. Now they've updated it based on research, and Canadians are more deficient in potassium, so they've decided to include that on there. We also have the milligram amounts of these nutrients shown, potassium, calcium, and iron. And then there's also a percent daily value footnote at the bottom there that was in there previously. So that just says 5% or less is a little and 15% or more is a lot. And you can also see that I have the dimensions of the table written below them. This table is actually figure 3.1b for those of you familiar with all the different templates of nutrition facts tables. And the one on the left is slightly smaller than the one on the right. So this may impact some food manufacturers that have a narrow carton for their packaging. We see this a lot in our snack aisles and crackers and certain cookies. I'll show you what I mean in the next slide here. So currently, some of our food manufacturers have their nutrition facts panel on the side, and they have unilingual panels. So they have one panel that's completely English and one panel that's completely French. Because the new nutrition facts table is enlarged by a little bit, some food manufacturers are impacted by this. So they are forced to take that enlarged nutrition facts table and put it on the back panel, and then condense and combine the English and French onto one panel, forcing them to have their romance copy and the nutrition facts on the back panel. So that's just a call out for those with those specific packaging dimensions. Okay, I mentioned 2 slides ago when I had the nutrition facts panels up that there's the footnote, 5% or less is a little, 15% or more is a lot. So this provides a threshold for Canadians to see what is considered a little and what is considered a lot of a nutrient. In this table here, we can see common foods that Canadians would be to consume. Some of them less than 15% daily value of sugars, and some of them more than 15% daily value of sugars. So again, this goes back to the vision of Canada's healthy eating strategy, making the healthy choice the easier choice for Canadians. So here it's very transparent and easy to see which foods are healthier and have less than the 50% daily value of sugar. So just taking a look here, plain yogurt would have 12%, whereas flavored yogurt would be 31% daily value of sugar. The mineral water, for example, 0%, and the soft drink has 39% daily values of sugars. So that's something to consider as well. Okay, the list of ingredients is also changing. There are numerous format changes that are happening now with the new regulations. For one, all words have to be in sentence case. Previously, all words had to be in capital letters. Now we are required to do sentence case. We are also required to have black font on a white background, as you can see in the image here on the left. Bullets or commas can be used to separate the ingredients, and there are now minimum type height requirements that are required for the ingredient list. Grouping of sugars is also required. So sugars will need to be grouped as one ingredient with the specific sugar ingredients in parentheses following the common name sugars. I'll get into this a little bit more on my next slide. And then food colors were previously able to be listed as colors. We could just combine all our colors into one and have it on there as colors, whereas now they will need to be listed by their individual common names. So Allura Red, Tartrazine, Brilliant Blue, and so on and so forth. So the sugar grouping, the example on the left, let's just look at the format for a second. We could see that the left example has a gray background. All the letters are in capital letters and there are commas separating the ingredients. Whereas the new format on the right is a little more legible for the consumer. It's on a white background with black font. The ingredients are written in sentence case. So the first ingredient is a capital letter and the subsequent letters are lowercase letters. So it's a little easier for consumers to see now and a little more visually appealing than it was before. And in this example, they have bullet points separating the ingredients, whereas previously we were only allowed to have the commas. In the new regulations, we can have either a comma or a bullet point. So in the red boxes, I have the sugars highlighted here. On the left-hand example, the sugars are dispersed within the ingredient deck, sugar being at 9% towards the bottom, brown sugar a little bit higher at 10%, fancy molasses at 21.5%, and the first ingredient in the highest percentage in the formula is flour at 25%. In the new ingredient list, all the sugars are combined into one ingredient, and those total 40.5%. So those are actually higher than flour in this formula, and it bumps sugars to the very first ingredient. So that's just something for manufacturers to consider. Okay, and so what can be included in sugars? So sugars can include white sugar, beet sugar, raw sugar, or brown sugar, agave syrup, honey, and even maple syrup can be considered sugars as well. Then all of those ingredients with the ose at the end, so fructose, glucose, sucrose, dextrose, those are all considered sugars as well. And then fruit juice concentrates and purees that are added to replace sugars in foods. So Health Canada actually has a great link on their website that shows examples of sugar-based ingredients that would require grouping. And their main criteria is if the ingredient is added there with the functionality of sweetening the product or sweetening the formula, then it would have to be grouped in as a sugar and listed as such. Okay, so the serving size will also be impacted with these new regulations. The serving size will be based on regulated reference amount. It will be more consistent and it will be easier for consumers to compare similar foods and know how many nutrients and calories are being consumed. So the changes are different for single serving and multi-serving packages. So as a reminder, within our nutrition facts table, we have the serving size stated as a household measure and then as a serving of stated size. So the household measure would be anything that a consumer would know and be familiar with as a household measure. So a cup, a tablespoon, a fraction piece of a cake, a number of chips, for example. And the serving of stated size would be a measurement or a weight, so a gram amount or a milliliter amount. So the serving size for single serving containers. So single serving packages containing up to 200% of the reference amount for that serving size will be the amount of the entire container. So previously, if we had the large cartons of milk, the serving size would just need to be 1 cup, 250 milliliters based on that table that we have in the regulations. However, now, because that package is up to 200% of the reference amount and is assumed to be consumed at one time in one sitting, so a single serving container, the nutrition will have to be reflective of that. So the nutrition facts serving size will be per carton. For foods that can be measured, such as yogurt in this example, the reference amount for yogurt is 175 grams. So the regulated reference amount ensures that there is consistency between products and it's easier for comparison. So 2 different yogurt brands would now have to comply with the same serving size requirements, just so it's easier for consumers to pick up 2 yogurts from 2 completely different brands and be able to compare their nutrition information. So for this example, it's 3/4 of a cup and 175 grams. For foods that are in pieces or divided, such as crackers or chips, the household measure will vary, and the serving size will be very similar. So the reference amount for crackers is 20 grams. So the serving of stated size would have to be as closest to the 20 grams as possible. So in the example here, we have 21 grams for crackers A and 19 grams for crackers B. And the piece weight of this will differ based on the size of the cracker, the density of the cracker, but the gram weight will be very similar and easy for consumers to compare. And then for foods that are typically eaten, so bread is a great example here. The household measure of bread is 2 slices because this reflects the amount that people will typically eat in one sitting, right? They make a sandwich with 2 slices of bread. Whereas previously, it was a little harder to compare. Different food manufacturers had different household measures. So you can see in the example, they had 1 slice and then 2 slices. Now it will be easier to compare, and they will have to go off the household measure. So 2 slices in bread A would be 90 grams, but in bread B would be 76 grams. However, that doesn't really matter because a consumer is eating 2 slices of bread at one time. Okay, so the compliance dates. So as I stated in my introduction, Health Canada published the amendments to these regulations December 14th, 2016. We are now in the middle of the 5-year transition period for regulated parties to meet the new labeling requirements. The compliance date currently is December 14th, 2021. However, on Health Canada's website, they have published that they are proposing a date of December 14th, 2022. That hasn't been finalized. The compliance date is still December 14th, 2021, but it's important to note that there is talks of maybe extending it. So there are numerous strategies and initiatives going on right now from Health Canada and CFIA as part of the healthy eating strategy and as part of CFIA's personal initiatives or CFIA's initiatives. The ones I spoke to right now were the labeling changes. There are certain other ones as well that are currently in their consultation stages, and the compliance date is TBD. They're just listed here. So as per my previous slide, there's several initiatives with varying implementation timelines, and every single SKU will be impacted. So it's important to sit down with your team and assess what exactly is going on here and how we could best plan to meet that compliance date. So for marketing, this would be a great opportunity for a redesign or to update any claims and romance copy because they are touching every single SKU anyways. For R&D, if reformulation is in scope, this would be a great time to reformulate. A consideration for graphics and brand design would be that there would be an increased volume of SKUs coming in, right? Every single SKU has to be updated. So this is huge for them. And regulatory affairs will need to align their internal systems and processes, develop new nutrition facts tables and ingredient statements, and conduct a risk assessment of all the SKUs impacted. As well, this is huge for supply chain and logistics. Want to make sure that they're minimizing write-offs and minimizing waste and harmonizing on their packaging and their raw materials wherever possible to minimize costs. So next steps, it's very important to assess the impacts to your product portfolio. So it may be cumbersome, but sitting down and looking at each and every SKU and how it's impacted. So do sugars now go to the first ingredient? Is reformulation in scope because of this? Do the cartons have that narrow shape I was talking about? And now are we forced to have the nutrition facts panel on the back? We need to do a whole redesign of the labeling artwork. It's also important to identify the project teams and key stakeholders. The stakeholders I mentioned on the previous slide are just some of few stakeholders that are impacted. So it's important to really have someone from every department, from every team on this to collaborate and just be on the same page. It's also important to identify timelines and budget for this. It's also important to plan the implementation. So plan to bundle projects together. If there was a redesign that was coming up within the next couple of months, maybe it's important or it could be beneficial to bundle the redesign with the new labeling changes. Or if there was a reformulation that was supposed to take place, maybe bundle that with the reformulation. And then finally, execute. So ensure that all resources are aligned for flawless execution to ensure that you're meeting that compliance deadline. So in summary, this is the biggest change to the nutrition facts table since the introduction of a standardized nutrition facts table in 2003. Both the format and the declaration of the NFT and the ingredient list will be impacted. And this will impact every single product in the Canadian marketplace. There are many significant changes for industry, and they, again, are impacting almost every single department. So it's important to assess, identify, plan, and execute to ensure you're meeting that compliance deadline. Here are just some of the links that I mentioned throughout my presentation for your reference. They're really great just to get more information. Perfect, that concludes my presentation. And now I'll bring it back to Dr. Goodridge for questions and answers from the audience.
Great, thank you, Margaret, for that great talk. We have several questions from our attendees.
Perfect.
And the first question is, how is threshold for less than 15% or more than 15% limit estimated?
So that is actually based on the daily values that are published in Health Canada's list of daily values. If you go on the website, you can see that there. But I believe that's estimated based on the most recent research that Health Canada does and all their partner universities and labs, et cetera.
Great. And the next question is, we use carrot juice concentrate in our product as color function, but also it is a source of sugar. Should carrot juice concentrate be included in the sugar grouping or not?
Mm-hmm. So again, these are tricky ones. That's a risk assessment that you have to make, but the guidance that Health Canada and the CFIA gives is the functionality. So if the functionality of that carrot juice is purely for color, then you would not have to group it under sugars. However, if the functionality is as a sweetening agent, then you would have to. And I encourage you to look at that link, Annex 1, examples of sugar grouping ingredients, and there should be more information there.
Okay, and the next question is, there's an amendment to extend enforcement to December 2022. Has that amendment gone through? And if yes, where can we verify this?
Right, so that amendment has not yet gone through. Health Canada has published exactly what that individual stated, that there's been a proposal to extend it. I apologize, I can't speak for Health Canada or the CFIA. I'm not sure if they would be able to, or if they are planning to extend it or not. All we know right now is that there is a proposal to extend.
Great. And our next question is, we have molasses as one of the ingredients in our product. Do we need to say sugar separately, and in brackets it should say molasses?
Correct, yes. Yes, so it would be sugar and then in parentheses molasses. The only time you wouldn't be grouping sugars is if the word sugar is in the ingredient. So if it was just table sugar and that was the only sugar ingredient in the formula, you could just list it as sugar. That's clear for the consumer. They know that that's sugar. However, molasses would need to be grouped.
Okay, great. We're getting lots of great questions from our attendees here. The next question is, does the compliance date also apply to the new front of pack labeling? Does the front of pack changes have other compliance? Will the front of pack changes have another compliance date?
Right, so those changes do not apply to the front of pack changes. So for anyone that is unaware, there's also consultations for front of pack regulations, and anything that would be over 15% sugar, salt, or fat would have an icon on the front panel that indicates so. Those regulations have not yet been published, and we are not sure when those will come into force.
Okay, and can you advise on a software package which is the best for food labeling?
I cannot advise. I'm unable to do so at the time.
Okay, and I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
My question is relates around spelling. So, and it relates between like labeling between Canada and the United States, like products sold in Canada and the United States. So coloring is a perfect example. So does that have to be spelled, you know, with Canadian English in Canada and US English in the US?
Exactly, yep. Yeah, color, flavor, yeah, they all need the appropriate spelling for the country.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you again for a great presentation and great discussion. We had wonderful questions from our attendees.